No wonder he has become a serial entrepreneur, investor, startup evangelist, keynote speaker, and author. Wow, amongst many other things. I'm sure I'm leaving something out. He also has time to lead investments at HP Tech Ventures, the corporate venture arm of Silicon Valley's original startup. He knows all there is to know regarding investing in Industry 4.0 and the emerging trend and technologies. Please, let's give a warm welcome to Vitaly, Golomb, and his panel. Here they are. Benjamin Wainstain from Demeter Partners, lovely jury, come on stage. We have also Peter Sweatman from Climate Strategy and Partners. Come on in, guys. Come on, Benjamin, don't be shy. Xoán Martínez Reboredo from Kaleido Logistics, and Pere, Vila from Radio Televisión Española, Spanish and Radio Television. Welcome all. Have I forgotten anybody? Oh, here you are, Agustin Delgado. Welcome, right in time, you know, you just made it, huh? All right, so here they are, our next panel. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Vitaly. It's all yours.
Thank you for the wonderful intro. Did you guys hear me?
No, we don't hear you. You can repeat that thing about the wonderful intro.
Check, test. No? Check, test. There we go. Okay, great. So thank you for the wonderful intro. We have an esteemed panel here. We're talking about something very, very important, which is the future of industry, the future of civilization. We know the third industrial revolution is coming. We've built a whole investment thesis out of it in HP, and we're looking to the future. Our world is going to be utterly transformed in the next 10 to 20 years. So with that, we're going to jump right into some folks that do this and look at this industry, these trends, very closely across a number of different categories. So we have representatives from media, from automotive, from startup investment, early stage, and from climate and energy finance. So the different industries now are going to be changing through this third industrial revolution. Why don't we quickly, just to introduce yourself to the audience and what you're doing as well, let's talk in that context, how is that affecting your work and your industry? So why don't we start here?
Sure. Well, thank you very much. I was delighted actually by the South Summit's invitation to come and talk to you about how energy and climate change is impacting the industrial revolution. Clearly, yesterday, perfectly timed, Europe has ratified the Paris Agreement, which will create a global context in which all of this innovation that we're discussing here and all of these transitions will take place. For me, the most interesting thing as I was looking through all of the different consultancies' researches on Industry 4.0 and listening to what countries are saying about what excites them the most, I think that where we are on the revolution of technologies that produce clean energy, and in just saving energy, we still have an enormous amount to go. Global energy efficiency or energy productivity it improves by a rate of about 1%. Just so that you have a sense of why I'm looking for energy and climate finance investments, the amount of money that's required in that sector alone to deliver against the Paris Agreement is in the order of trillions, and 50% of the estimated change that's required to reach the Paris goals is going to be coming from energy efficiency. And energy efficiency, whilst it may not be the most exciting of new technologies, is all around us in every factory, in every industry, in every building. And there's an enormous business, which some of my colleagues here will tell you more about the startups they've invested in, but there's enormous business potential there. And so, I mean, I'll come back to it, but I think the themes of Industry 4.0 are very well reflected in the change that's going on in the energy markets today.
I think probably most naturally, that's probably the most natural area.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I only have one rule for my panels, so people cannot agree with each other. Makes it a lot more fun. So why don't we keep going here?
Yeah, Kaleido is a global logistic operator, 40 years old. Of course, we are providing logistics services to the industry, automotive industry, oil and gas, mining equipment, and so on and so. But we realize that something is coming, or something is really here already. So we have started to develop our innovation division 8 years ago, and we have our open innovation ecosystem already, right? That's why we found 1 year ago the Logistic Tech Accelerator in San Francisco. So we are joining forces. Instead of depending on our own innovation capabilities, we are detecting worldwide the right startups in order to bring to the market. That means that this kind of technology is not arriving to Kaleido, it's arriving to Kaleido clients and suppliers too. So actually, our field is the Industry 4.0 field. This means that in an automotive industry plant, we are deploying robotics or blockchain or autonomous vehicles just as quick as in 2, 4, 6 months' time, because our motto is from innovation to cash flow. So everything is money, and we are trying to figure out how the right model is achieving this kind of goals.
Great. So Pere, from the media side.
Yes, it's very surprising to have a media company in this panel, but in RTVE, we think in the next future we will work about boats, especially about boats produced by audiovisual sector. I take some examples. One is to try to customize our offer to the public, one by one. Each person is a different consumer of RTVE. Our offer must be one by one. Another tool is the automatization of metadata. Every day we shoot a lot of images, a lot of sounds. We have about 500 journalists working. We need, before to store this content, to analyze what is happening, what is saying, who is in the image. We need tools to do this. Also, tools to know the feelings of the people about our programs, about our personage, about our programs, about our series. We need also tools to help us in the creative field. Right? This is strange to use in creative field, but to help us in the computer journalism, to help us in write stories. I think in this moment, maybe you may think it's crazy, but I think in 5 or 6 years or 10 years, we will use this kind of tools. Also in mobile journalism, to use the new mobiles for the journalism and to share with the people the contents. Working in the cloud, we must translate all of our process to the cloud, and also finally the tools for distribution of the contents. We need to be more efficient and to distribute our contents in the cloud. And we are thinking in these areas, but in the practice. Excuse me.
Let's start over.
Okay, we have created an accelerator of the startups, named Impulsa. It's placed near here, and this year we are working with 4 companies. 2 of these companies in the area of technology. One is the journalism, named Videona, and he is working in mobile journalism, and the other one is Tel2. He is working, help us to be more efficient in the distribution of our contents in the net. Okay.
Great. Benjamin, so you're investing in a lot of these frontier tech areas, especially in data and in sensors collecting that data. So how are you seeing, and how did you get to this point, and what do you see in the future as far as the importance of what you're investing in?
So, does it work? Yeah.
Yeah.
So at Demeter, we're investing in the clean tech area in general. So not only industrial, but over the past 11 years, we've been investing throughout Europe in all these technologies that have a positive impact for the planet in general. So it can be any sort of technology, but over the past, let's say, 5 years, our investment within the industrial scope, because of course the industry is one of the main scope that we look at, has been more and more impacted by the digital within the industry. So now what we call Industry 4.0, we happen to invest in this area, I guess a little bit before it was named that way, but we're looking at technology that can improve the process, because then you reduce your impact on the planet, also reduce your energy consumption. And while doing this, then we happen to invest in sensors that can monitor the industry, the factory, help the manager to reduce their electricity consumption, water consumption as well. We also have investments in the agriculture field, which is a huge field for the Industry 4.0. With a combination of drones, of weather forecasts, of models of the field. You can also improve the use of inputs. and and limit the amount of water that you need. We have invested in sensors also to monitor the quality of lubricant, to improve the efficiency of engines. So all those fields that we have been invested in for, in a way that we were looking to for improvement in terms of clean technologies. And now it's the whole package of technology that we can put under an umbrella of Industry 4.0. So we clearly can see that the digitalization of the industrial process are now really at work. And for us, it was very important also because we invest in the industrial IoT, as I guess it's the American nomination for that. It is much more reality than the every person IoT, like all the wearable IoT and so on. It's all a perspective, but it's important to understand that the Industry 4.0 is actually happening today at a large scale, which is not the case for everyone's day-to-day.
And Agustin, you're also investing in the area.
Yeah, well, I work for Iberdrola. Is one of the most important utilities in the world, one of the leaders in renewable. I am responsible for R&D innovation, and also within my department, we have our corporate venture capital. So I was talking with Pere before getting into the stage, and we are talking about Industry 4.0, but we are talking about utility 0.0, so we are 2 points behind the industry somehow. But this is not true. The truth is that this revolution is impacting all businesses, as you said before. And I think the energy sector, it is one key sector and one of the pillars of the, let's say, revolution and the new society will have in 25 years' time. So for 2040, the world will need 70% more electricity. But at the same time, this electricity should be decarbonized. So this is a huge challenge. And you have been talking about the Paris Agreement, and really this is huge. So like 15 years ago, Iberdrola leveraged on the technology, and we built all our renewable business out of nothing. And I think this helped us to become one of the world leaders in the industry. And now I think we want to keep doing so. And through this new Industry 4.0, with all the technologies available and all new business models, we want to leverage on that and become not one of the world leaders, but the world leader in this new energy sector that we will need for the future. And truly, our company think that innovation and new business models is the way to go forward. So this is our mission in the department. Yeah.
Very good. So on the one hand, we understand that energy production is a major element. And if we put that aside for the second, there's one other piece, which is automating everything, right? And the effect it has on the job market, especially in countries with Spain that still have a high unemployment rate. We're pushing very quickly towards that future where most things are going to be automated. I think it was Gartner that said by 2025, 30% or more of jobs are going to be AI-driven. What are your thoughts on this future and how we're going to get there and how people are going to stay employed? What do we do? What does the government do?
I'm not going to give advice to the government, but I think your point is extremely well made. I just was reading a McKinsey report on some of these issues. The 4 key trends that they were talking about that characterize Industry 4.0 were big data, advanced analytics, human-machine interfaces, and digital to physical transfer. I was thinking about that in terms of the work that we do for the energy sector, and I don't know, Agustin, if you're going to disagree with me, but for the energy sector, given we're at 2.0, not 4.0, I would say it's any data, any analytics, any interfaces, and any digital to physical transfer, meaning that as a sector that serves the industrial sector, industry has to move first, and then the energy sector, as provided to that industry, tends to be somewhat more reactive, I would say, to industry's needs. To your point, I visited an energy, it's very hard to visit energy efficiency projects. They just don't exist, because if this building were more energy efficiency or less, we wouldn't know necessarily unless we went to look at the certificate, if it was there. But in Prague, I went to the National Music Orchestra's building, which is a beautiful building in the very, very center of Prague. That building has absorbed around 500,000 to €1 million worth of energy efficiency upgrades. Now, you can't tell the difference, but when you go visit it, you can visit the fact that the tubes are taking the heat, borrowing the heat from a complex of buildings across the road, so they now have no boiler. The upstairs, above where all of the concert takes place, above the lights and everything, now they have a very insulated ceiling so that they don't get the cooling and the heating exodus as they previously had. All of their lighting installations are now LEDs, which cost less and also last longer and are using about 1/10 of the energy. The net effect is, economically, the transaction works very well, but, and then this is to your point, you visit the control room. The control room of that building, that whole building can now be controlled from a single laptop. So it's being taken around the building by the man with a laptop. So the man has a laptop, and the whole building's control systems and everything, and all the data feeds can be controlled by the laptop. However, there is an agreement to manage the system in the old way. So the old control room exists, and there are old service and technicians who are there, who are sitting in front of, ineffectively, big dials and big sort of traditional old mechanisms for turning on and off sort of heating and control systems. And even though the systems can be delivered automatically, there is an interface between the man with the laptop, who then calls another human being, who then makes the changes in the control room.
Now, was this purposely done to preserve the jobs?
It was obviously done as a result of the way in which that organization needs to transition its workforce.
Okay.
So, but it is an illustration, and in some cases, often in energy efficiency projects, and I'm chair of a company that does energy efficiency projects, we find there is a human element in every, you can make the economics work perfectly, but there is always a human element, and it's just about human behavior and how human behavior interacts with new technologies and the saving energies that you can produce.
So you're pretty much a bull on the fact that we're going to create new jobs and preserve the human workers in using this automation technology and efficiency.
Not at all, actually. I'm the opposite. I'm very enthusiastic about that because it takes no jobs at all to waste energy.
Yeah.
And it takes a very limited number of jobs, as Agustin will probably tell you, to run a nuclear power station, for example.
Yeah.
However, to do 1 million retrofits of Spanish homes, it's going to take hundreds of thousands of people. And they're the kinds of jobs that are local and use artisan and crafts and skills which everybody needs to know, because the way you make a building more energy efficient is physically visiting it, changing the materials, switching the control systems, and then you create all of the modern advantages to the customer, the comfort that's needed, but you still need that human interface with the customer, because the customer is always going to be human.
So 1 point for new industries, new jobs to transition to this future. So on the automotive side, right, we know about autonomous. We know in the U.S. #1 profession is truck driver.
Yeah.
3 million truck drivers in the U.S. and about 5 million people servicing them. We're realizing that within 5 years, that might be 0 million truck drivers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, of course, it's changing. Of course, something is happening, but not only due to the automatization. I mean, the share economy is not just Uber. It's not Airbnb. Even it's not logistic from B2C. It's from B2B. So today, share economy means share transport, share logistics, and share industry capabilities too. So we are trying to run with a more efficient CapEx, investing less money, less capital for getting more outputs. And it's extremely challenging. Of course, if you talk about employment, about the people, I cannot do magic, but yeah, the governments and even companies need to think about it, because it's a kind of shock. US is already deployment trucks without drivers. You know the movement from Otto and Google, and they are quite open. The European Union is also quite open, but not the national governments within the continent, our continent. So let's see. But for sure, it's a wave that is coming, and at the end of the day, the question is, are we competitive enough or not? So,
very good.
Difficult task. Huh?
So, Pere, you were actually saying some interesting things that you're doing in kind of new journalism and data around that and bots in journalism.
Yeah.
That's certainly automating certain things. I'd love to hear a little bit more. I think our audience will love to learn more.
Yes, I think these bots permit us to produce more efficiently, but also to produce things better than now. We can use these tools not only okay, I can contract lower people, no? I maintain the people, but I put in the hands of these people new tools that will help them to do best production, best contents, and the idea is this one. It's not to go to the people to the street, and what is automatization? The information is automated, and anybody is working in the process. I think are tools of improving the quality of our content.
So your perspective is that these tools are providing new capabilities to the same team, and to be more creative and be more productive.
Yes, and to do things that now we cannot do because we have not allowed people to do things like, for instance, to metadating our contents or classifying our contents. We cannot, we don't have people to analyze all the contents, and we can only do these things by use of tools. In my opinion, the amount of people is the same, but we will have better tools and we produce better contents. Is my idea, and also you can also use the bots to analyze your work, okay? Not only to help us in the beginning to deciding what you're putting in the content, but also at the end of the chain, analyzing your content and suggesting things, okay, you can change this one or this one.
So better data. So maybe you can do live testing on political debates and see if somebody's telling the truth, right?
We can try.
It's a very popular topic on our side of the ocean at the moment.
Another thing, for instance, a football match is a football match, but you can tell 4 or 5 stories about this football match. Is the team your supporter is gaining the game for this football match, you win. Okay, for the other game, maybe I'm lose, or for that is not important. I think with tools, with this kind of tools, we can personalize the information for the people, saying the point of view or considering with his point of view. That's the idea.
Got it. So Benjamin, Agustin, as far from the investment perspective, what are your thoughts, and how has your thesis and your outlook changed on the way you look at companies that you invest in and projects you invest in as far as human capital versus automation or some of these categories?
I think there was the same discussion about when with the internet in general. I guess it's always the question of progress in general. I think for over 200 years, people have expected that a new revolution, transformation is going to destroy jobs, and what are people going to do if you have a machine that can carry the rocks instead of the workers? I think for Industry 4.0, it's going to be the same. What you see, obviously, that you've got a strong shift from some jobs to others. So that brings a lot of unemployment, many countries. And at the same time, you have a strong need of specific jobs that are not found, like developers. If you look for developers nowadays in Paris, it's even worse in Palo Alto, but it's going to be awfully expensive, and it's a very rare, and every young person now is almost is working as a developer. So you have new jobs that are really required. The problem is transformation now are going very fast, so the society doesn't have time to adapt. So you've got a misfit between the people and the expectations on for the jobs. But the good thing is that in the IoT, in the Internet of Things, there are things. So it's not pure IT, it's not pure artificial intelligence. Yeah. You also have to produce something. So you can have automated factories, but still you're going to need some maintenance, and you're going to need some design and some building. So for us, in the as a seed investor, the startups we invest in obviously create a lot of jobs. We produce objects 99% of the time. We actually have facilities or factories, small pilot lines to produce things. So we do have, of course, a lot of people around. So it's not at all, we're not building, we don't have a vision where people don't work. But that's for the IoT. Now for artificial intelligence, which I don't really know because it's pretty far from the clean tech area, that may be a different threat for the employment. But I'm sure that that society will have to adapt itself. If you have robots working by themselves, and we just have to watch them work for us, then we'll find other way to spend our time.
Yeah. So Agustin, I would. You can answer the same question, or I'll ask you the next one.
Well, I would like to talk about that a bit because well, I wish I have an answer to the fact of employment, and I don't. But my feeling is, at first point, it's to disagree with what you are saying. I truly think that the unemployment fact of all this Industry 4.0, this innovation wage and so on, is something that we have to tackle. It's something very serious, and we need to give an answer to that, because we can produce goods or we can produce services and so on, but somebody has to buy these services and goods. And I think that really this is something that we have to address. And if you go to the World Economic Forum in Davos, it's something that is really on the table and in the debate, because I don't think it is the same pace of innovation and change, and technological change, as 200 years before in the Industrial Revolution. I think this is something different, and we have to tackle that. And we have to be very innovative in how to deliver to our society not only services and goods, but also ways to earn their lives. So if we talk about energy, well, I said before, world will need 70% more energy. So I don't think in our industry we will be producing unemployment, because we have to build a lot of infrastructure and we have to handle them and maintain them and so on. But as a whole, I think we have to take a look carefully to all the indicators about implications, societal implications of this transformation, because if we don't tackle them in advance, if we don't take this challenge in advance, maybe we will find something like inequality or well, some other things. So I think we have to take it seriously, and it is not as easy as saying we will be producing new jobs, because we have to take at the metrics if these new jobs that are being produced are enough to substitute those that are being removed.
So
and now you wish I can answer the next
segue.
question.
Perfect segue. My next question was going to be, well, essentially the agricultural revolution took over 200 years.
Sorry?
The agricultural revolution took over 200 years, multiple generations. Industrial revolution was about 80 years. And we're now looking at a third industrial revolution that's going to be about 20 years within one generation. How do we retrain people? And when we do hit singularity with AI, artificial intelligence hitting 100 IQ and then taking off rapidly to 100,000 IQ, so do we become irrelevant? Do we become insects? And is it Terminator days? Or what are your thoughts? I mean, we don't have to go in order. I'd like to, anybody that feels passionately about this. I don't expect anybody to have a clear answer on this, but I'd love your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I will continue. Yeah, this is something that is our concern, because we have people from 22 to 65 in the company, and there is a challenge for people in the 60s or 50s to somehow understand the new technologies and so on. But I think at the same time, these new people that are getting into the market and getting into the industry needs to understand how things are working. But we truly think that it is not enough anymore to have a degree in electrical engineering to work in Iberdrola, for saying something. So, for example, we have built a huge facility in San Agustin de Guadalix. It's a center really to keep our people training in different technologies and to update our people in the new technologies, somehow, let's say, old people in new technologies, but also to give the training needed for new generations to understand what is the industry. So,
do you think we'll be able to keep up with that training?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have invested huge amounts, hundreds of millions of euros in that training, because we think it's very important. This is one thing. And the other thing, it is that I think we all agree on that. Knowledge is not anymore in one company. So I wouldn't say Iberdrola has the knowledge to run our business. So we have the core knowledge about that, but we have to rely on suppliers. So the knowledge is more distributed every time. So the concept of the knowledge needed to run a business is changing. So in this center I was saying before, it is not only a center for Iberdrola employees, but it's also for suppliers and for all the environment that's around us, so we can keep leverage the knowledge all together. I think this is the way to go. It is not anymore what you get from the university. It is outdated in less than 10 years.
Yep, absolutely. So we have less than a minute left. Anybody else want to add thoughts to this, or I'll ask you a lightning round question?
From my side, a positive conclusion, right? 3. First is the distance from South Summit to Main Street is big. Okay. The second, the market is huge. Okay. And thanks God, the market is imperfect. No perfection at all. So I think that we have a long way, and people and employment has a lot to say. I mean, we are not insects. I love insects, but I think that we are quite far away. So, yeah, that's it from my side.
Anybody else, final thought?
I was going to say, if we're going to be insects, we're going to be very comfortable insects. So I was invited to talk about the energy transition last year, and I had the good fortune of talking alongside Elon Musk and alongside Bertrand Piccard. Now, Elon, of course, is revolutionizing the way we interact with our vehicles, and we're going to be getting around on a carbon-free transport as fast as the insane button will take us. And at the same time, we'll also be flying around, hopefully, in planes built on the basis of the solar impulse, which is, as you know, the solar plane which has traveled around the world thanks not just to solar power, but also to the innovations in materials that have been created to allow it to be so light, and the flying patterns that those pilots have been able to bring it. So if that isn't a demonstration of the future, the power of the technology, that perhaps that gives us wings as insects, but I think that we're still going to want to travel, we're still social beings, and all of that, all of the technology and all of the processes that need to back up those existences are going to be the ones that this summit and these people are going to be part of creating.
Very good. That, or we live in VR. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and thoughts.
Thank you, everybody.